Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex-Martial has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king. From rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more, Ex-Martial has got you covered. Ex-Martial is an extremely community-oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmartial.com and enjoy the fight. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Apex, Jon Gamebred Boguslavski. How are you, mate? How are things?
Just stick with Gamebred. The Apex is down the road. I don't like that anymore. But yeah, doing good. Looking forward to this preview. How are you doing?
Good, mate. Just enjoyed the Easter weekend. We are recording about 10 days out now, I think, from UFC 300, just to try and get through everything. So this is the big UFC 300 preview. And I guess before we get there, I want to start with a little bit of a discussion just about the event itself. Obviously, we did a preview podcast. When was that? Back in January, where you, myself, and Nathan broke down the fights that we thought we would see and that we wanted to see. I think you, in the end, came out on top, right, with most of the fights. The correct predictions. So it's changed a lot. I mean, where are you sitting with the overall event? Where are you sitting with the card? What are your thoughts now as we're kind of getting close to the time?
I'm so excited. I don't know why people are complaining that this card is the main event sucks, blah, blah, blah. I think this main event freaking rules. This is probably the most stacked card any MMA promotion could have given us. From bottom to the top, when you're talking about how Cody Garbrandt and Figueiredo are your first fight of the night, and you talking about how it's not stacked, I think you're just a casual and you're not an MMA fan. Because those are two former champions. They were supposed to fight for a belt just 4 years ago against each other. And they're starting a card. I think this card will blow off. I think we're not ready. This card will blow the roof off the place. We're going to have just be so much adrenaline, just be prepared for every card, for every fight after fight after fight, just being a potential banger. Because every fight here could have done a Apex main event or just my fight night main event. So I'm just super excited, stoked. I'm not even comprehending how ready I am.
That's a really good point. A couple of points I want to touch on in there. One thing that I was thinking about, obviously, with Dana, when he talked it up, you were thinking, okay, some crazy stuff's going to happen. Look, I can't fault the UFC for what they tried to do. They tried to put together some really ridiculous fights. If you believe everything that was going on in the rumor mill, and looking at what is available, who is available, I think we got the best we possibly could have got, right? Minus possibly a certain Irishman who looks pretty jacked up on whatever it is he's taking anyway. I think this is probably
Definitely
the best.
not legal.
Definitely not legal stuff. Definitely not legal stuff. But I think this is probably the best that we could have got. There's a couple of question marks in there, but your point of is this the best card an MMA promotion has ever put together? The police are coming after me. I don't know if you can hear it, but the police are outside questioning that statement. I'm going to throw a few at you, okay? And you tell me if you think they're any better. I mean, we'll talk main cards maybe. UFC 205, Alvarez versus McGregor. That obviously had Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez, Tyron Woodley, Stephen Thompson, Jędrzejczyk, Kovacevic, Yoel Romero, Chris Weidman, Raquel Pennington, Miesha Tate. 251, Usman Masvidal. Usman Masvidal was the main event. Volk Mac 2, I believe that was, Petian Jose Aldo, Rose Namajunas, Jessica Andrade, Amanda Hebas, Paige Van Zandt. 217, Bisping versus St. Pierre, Dillashaw, Garbrandt, Namajunas, Jędrzejczyk, Stephen Thompson, Jorge Masvidal, Costa, Johnny Hendricks, and the last one I throw at you, which is a little bit of a curveball because of when it happened, but I think it's up there as a great card. Gaethje Ferguson, Cejudo, Cruz, Ngannou, Rosenstruik, Calvin Kattar, Jeremy Stevens, and Greg Hardy, Jorgen De Castro. That is UFC 249, the COVID card. I mean, my only argument, to be honest, I have two. I think 217, Bisping St. Pierre, and 205 are better main cards than 300. That's my thought. What do you think?
My argument here is because of Bo Nickel on the main card, it makes it weaker because we could have had anybody else. We could have had Yuri versus Rakic on the main card. We could have had Oliveira is there. We could have had Garbrandt Figueredo. We could have had Kattar versus Sterling on the main card. So I do argue. I will still argue UC 300 has a better main card. But it's still relatively close. Yes, like UC 217, you could have a legend Johnny Hendricks fighting Costa, up and coming, and Costa was also bloated up Hendricks at middleweight. Yeah, trying to fight a young Costa. You have a great fight with Wonder Boy and Mazda, JJ versus Rose. It's hard. It's like it depends what's your cup of tea, to be honest. But UC 217, I probably wanted the greatest event ever that happened because of all the N news 3 times in a row. 249, I would say, is also a good one because of how Dana blew it up for us coming back from COVID. All right, the first card back live. Main card opener wasn't that good though. Greg Hardy and Castro, none of them are in UC anymore.
No.
But you saw Ngannou, you saw Kattar with a beautiful elbow. Gaethje and Tony, who it is a good fight, but it wasn't enough fight that was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Habib versus Tony, so we'll get minus points for that. 251 back. That was the first fight back in front of a live crowd. Amanda Hebas and Paige Van Zandt just didn't do for me anything like that. That as an opener. If you want to compare main card openers, them versus Oliveira and Sarukian, or I think now Nickel must be opening. I think I would prefer seeing Nickel.
Okay,
CB.
interesting.
Especially if you look back in a few years, people compare, let's say, UC 400. Like, oh, UC 300, we have Bo Nickel on the main card.
Yeah.
He's not a huge name right now, but he has the potential. So he could be a superstar. He could be actually headlining UFC 400. And then be like, look, you look past cards, he was on the main card. So I will argue that UC 300 has a better main card because of how many former champions we have, current champions.
Yep.
Historic fight between 2 first Chinese ladies fighting for the belt. Oliveira, fan favorite. Gaethje, Max Holloway, fan favorites. Pereira, fan favorite. Jamal Hill never lost his belt. And up and coming superstar in Bo Nickel. I do think Bo Nickel's gonna be a superstar, especially when he fights Hamzat one day.
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me with this Bisping St. Pierre card, main event's better, I think, than 300. Would you agree or disagree?
Yes, well, I have to agree because GSP and coming back.
I backed you into a corner, right? Dillashaw Garbrandt is better than Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan, easily, as the co-main event, right?
Sure, yeah.
Easily. Rose Namajunas, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is also better than that fight, but it is not better than the BMF fight. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I will give you that. Stephen Thompson, Jorge Masvidal. Look, I would trade them out, right? I would have that Bo Nickel, Cody Garbrandt fight off. You put in Jorge Masvidal and Thompson, you've got a perfect card there. So I think we can say it's a draw in terms of what the better card is. But I totally agree. I think that's the one you can really stack up to. Maybe the Conor McGregor one, but like you said, the earlier fight, yeah, it's not so great. But you did also have Khabib there. But anyway, overall, I think UFC 300 is ridiculous. When you take the full card into picture,
It goes by eras, right? Right.
yeah,
It's talking about 300. Like back at if we're back at 217, 205, like when this happened already, like 6 years ago now,
yeah,
I'd be like, yes, that is the most stacked card. But with just the progression of MMA and the UFC, how it did,
the way it's
UFC
changed.
300 it just always changes. And you're right. Like maybe a certain like Irishman could be on it, or like another big superstar. But I'm arguing everybody who's there in the main card is already a big superstar. You'd want to see them fight, if not for a co-main main event or a fight night, but they're all right there already.
Mm.
I don't think we understand the grasp of like all these staggered fighters on the main card. It we won't be. I don't think we'll be able to handle it. Like I remember watching Gaethje and Chandler when they opened up the cards at one UFC, right, pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's Square Garden.
And I was looking. It was for the first round, didn't finish, and I felt 50 minutes already. I saw the clock; it was 2 minutes left. I'm like, how we still have 5 fights after this?
Yeah,
This is exactly what's going to happen. But just after the 3 fights into the early prelims, we're going to be exhausted by the time the main event happens.
yeah. I mean, there is a big kind of thing of fight fatigue, right? Definitely, because I remember that fight, and then the fight after that was Billy Quarantillo versus remind me of the guy's name. Who was it? I just lost it.
Shane Burgos.
Thank you, Burgos and Quarantillo. They put on a fight of the night as well, but everyone basically was dead for it because of that Gaethje.
I remember exactly. I was exhausted. I was trying to like take a breath, leaning back on my chair, but like this fight, Tarantino and Burgos was just putting on a show, and I was like, wait a second, this is also a banger. Obviously, not at the level of Chandler and Gaethje, where just haymakers, but this is also a banger. So it's 2 bangers in a row, just to tease you with will happen. You see 300. I don't think people are ready.
Yeah,
A lot of talk, not a lot of knowledge from people. That's what I would say.
And I think you made a really good point that it's in hindsight, right? I mean, we may look back on this card as, holy crap, it delivered. It is the best card of all time, right? Like right now, yeah, we look back a little bit at some of the others. I saw a statistic actually. I just finished watching today the fight night from the weekend, the Atlantic City fight, and they showed a statistic that 11.1% of all the champions, I think this must have been a statistic in UFC history, are on this card.
Are in 300.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. With that being said, let's get into two gentlemen who are in that 11.1%. Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill fighting for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship in the main event. Obviously, Jamal Hill making his return after I can't remember. I'm not sure if he actually sacrificed the belt or what exactly happened there. It was kind of a back-to-back, who gave the belt up before that? Was it Yuri? No, it wasn't Glover. It was Yuri. Thank you. Yeah, Yuri gave it up because of his injury. Then Jamal kind of gave it up because of his injury, although he never said he did. I don't know. But either way, Alex Pereira came in and got the job done after beating Jan Blachowicz in his divisional debut. Jamal Hill throwing some shade at him in some of the promos I saw over the weekend. Really, really interesting, as Jamal Hill would do. I think he's a great talker. I've forever got stuck in my mind the image of his arm flopping around after Paul Craig snapped it in half. So I kind of can never really get away from that. I feel like where I want to start with this is one thing that Jamal Hill said. He said that Alex Pereira had hand-picked fights. This might be controversial, but I would look at Pereira's MMA resume and say it's better than Jamal Hill's.
I don't think it's controversial. I think it is true. But the reason that is because they try to fast track Pereira towards that middleweight championship versus Izzy, right? And if you look, who knew when Pereira fought Strickland that Strickland would become champion back in the day? I would never. If you asked me, I would bet my life on it that Strickland would never become champion in UFC, and look what he did versus Izzy. So that came as a shock. Pereira doesn't have. He didn't fight bums, right? He didn't fight except maybe the little Greek fella at the beginning. That was just to introduce him to the UFC.
Michailidis.
Yes, yes. I feel
But
like I
he's no
always ask you
bum.
about it.
He to be fair, he is no bum because I've seen what he's done in Octagon, especially last year in the Tipsport Game Changer. I go against that he is a bum, but anyway, continue.
Maybe not bum, but like not up to his level. Right.
Mhm.
Then he fought Bruno Silva. He fought Sean Strickland. Fought Izzy twice. Fought Yablachowicz. Fought Iri Prohaska. So it's all former champions. But I think because they used to try to fast track him, that's why Jamal Hill said that. Because Jamal Hill
Mhm.
went more like a classic route, really earning his way towards the rankings, climbing up the rankings, and when opportunity knocked on his door, he took it. When Yablachowicz and Ankalaev, your boy, fought to a draw, we had to have a champion. Right? There's a Brazil card that happened in a month. Glover was the champion before them. He took his opportunity and completely destroyed. Shot out Glover in his hometown, which is also Pereira's coach, pupil, friend, mentor.
Mhm.
So that's I would agree with Jamal. I would agree with what you say, but I just think it's because they fast tracked Pereira. He didn't have to go through the contender ranks, up the rankings of the middle division, and because he's so much older as well, right? You go into MMA, you want to go because he's over 35, I believe he's 36.
Yeah.
You definitely try to fast track him. So, yeah.
I think you look at his record, right? Jan Blachowicz is not a gimme fight for anybody. You look at what happened when Izzy came up. He just wrestled him to the floor pretty much, and Pereira won that by a split decision. I think if you go back and watch it, it is really tough to score that fight.
Very
Actually,
close.
very very tough to score. I mean, yeah, I mean, Glover Teixeira aside, Thiago Santos. I mean, he's washed up on every beach on the planet, isn't he? Johnny Walker can go in and out. Jimmy Crute, okay, and then he's obviously got the loss to Paul Craig. Definitely, I think Alex Pereira, whether you call it handpicked or not, his MMA UFC CV is better, way better than Jamal Hill. So I'm not buying that from Jamal. They're both 6-1 in the UFC, which is interesting. I mean, I think we're going to be in for a stand-up battle, right? There's no other way this fight can go. How do you see the technical matchup and it kind of playing out between these two?
Oh, it's hard to tell because I thought Yuri was going to win against Pereira, and then he get landed a left hook, and then it seemed like any left hook that lands from Pereira it might take you out. So I hope Jamal Hill has his chin ready. I wouldn't be worried about even the leg kicks if I was Hill. I'll be worried about avoiding the left hook first and mix up your game. Really mix up your game and do what you do best. Yes, we talked about how you said how Hill's fighters leading up to this is weaker, but if they are weaker, Hill was supposed to finish them, which he did. Right, he finished Crute, he finished Walker in round one, finished Santos round four in a grudge match,
Mm-hmm.
and Glover for a championship. He took him to decision, which was all him in that fight. So I think Hill knows what he has to do. I don't think Hill's gonna be worried about what his game plan is. I think just avoid the left hook and mix it up. You're both tall guys. You could try definitely fight him on the outside. Do what you did with Glover. Find your kicks. Find your punches. Also to mention, Jamal Hill is 3-0 versus Brazilians, and guess what Pereira is?
Let me guess, 3-0 versus Americans.
No. I'm saying Pereira is a Brazilian, so I
Ah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah. That's a
I
good
don't know how.
statistic.
Yeah, I don't know how Pereira does versus Americans, but just I think we're not giving a chance to Jamal Hill. I think people forgot what he was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because he hasn't fought to like the level of competition, but he did win the belt. He did relinquish it because he was injured. That's another question. Like we had with Yuri when he fought Pereira, how will Jamal Hill look after an injury like that? When he
Yeah,
last fought in January
yeah. It was
of
the Glover match,
2023.
right?
Yeah, that's his last fight, January 2023.
Yeah, and that was a unanimous decision. I mean, he couldn't get Glover out of there, right? I guess Glover will give a lot of insight into Pereira. I mean, stylistically, I think it's a fascinating matchup because
Yeah.
you see a lot of holes in Hill's game because he swings, leaves himself very open. And we've seen what happens when people do that against Pereira. Pereira is an absolute sniper. And like you said, he's got that stupid death touch in his left hook that just puts anybody down, no matter who you are. It'll be very interesting to see how this one goes. Anything else to add on the fight, or just want to give your prediction?
I just want to add, like, Jamal Hill didn't lose his belt. He relinquished it, right? He did the honorable thing like he redid. He wanted to keep the division going. So
Yeah.
I just think people are underestimating Jamal Hill. I don't think Alex Pereira is. I think we did see the future matchup when Glover faced Hill in Brazil, and then Hill won that belt. If you remember, Pereira was staring down Hill when he was in Glover's corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a little preview of like, oh, will Pereira move up one day? Will he face Hill? And well, here it is. We have the three-headed monsters now with the former champs with Yuri, Pereira, and Jamal Hill, and they're all fighting on the same card. So I think it's showcase the light heavyweight division, which has revived itself. And going with my official prediction, you guys are ready? Jamal Hill knockout.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go round 4.
Round 4. Ooh, deep in the fight. Yeah, I'm going against you for sure. Alex Pereira by knockout. I just think there's just something special about this guy, man. There's just something about this guy. He's got the death touch. You know, Jamal Hill seems to, apart from the Johnny Walker one, Jamal Hill seems to overwhelm more. And I just think Pereira will find his chin at some point. Round 3, knockout, round 3, and still light heavyweight champion. Right, co-main event. I'll be very honest, I'm super surprised they put this on 300. This must have been one of those, we've got a championship fight, we have a slot, let's put it there, because this really should be a headline out in China. That's Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan for the women's strawweight championship. Zhang Weili basically just being an absolute monster in that division. And Yan Xiaonan really chipping away. I mean, she's earned this, right? She's really earned this shot. She's kind of been under the radar for a little while. She's on a 2-fight win streak against Andrade and Mackenzie Dern. But I guess who hasn't beaten Mackenzie Dern lately?
Yeah.
And then with
before
two
losses, what a role she had too.
Yeah, Claudia Gadelia, Carolina Kowalkiewicz, Angela Hill, etc. Lost to obviously Marina Rodriguez and Carla Esparza. I mean, the Carla Esparza one doesn't look good, really, does it? Zhang Weili, she's a monster. She's a monster. Won the title back against Carla Esparza. I mean, she destroyed her in that fight, didn't she? Right? She absolutely ran through her, and then got a unanimous decision over Amanda Lemos. Previously beating Joanna Jędrzejczyk with a spinning back fist. 2 losses to Rose Namajunas, and then Jędrzejczyk again when she turned her into some sort of space creature, and then also beating Jessica Andrade, Tisha Torres, etc. Yeah, big fight. I'm surprised they're not doing it in China, but thus here we are, UFC 300, a main card slot for these two ladies. What are your thoughts and impressions on this all Chinese affair?
I think this fight wasn't happening in China. We're better than UFC 300, where everybody's gonna be watching. So, do we even think Weili's gonna lose this? I don't see Weili. I can't see Weili losing, because the only time she lost is against Rose. That's the only like blip in her record.
Yeah.
And yeah, she get caught with the head kick, beautiful head kick. I don't think anybody would have taken that. And then Rose in the rematch just came with the confidence and out wrestled her.
Yeah, I mean that was a split decision also.
That was also a split decision. That was close. So it's hard to tell. Hard because Weili looks unbelievable, looks unbeatable. I don't know. I can't see any flaw in her game other than being on the bottom of her if you wrestle her. But I don't think Weili will have problem versus Xiaonan Yan. Like, I don't know what can Yan do better than Wei Li in this fight. Do you see anything she could do better?
I mean, I think you've got to go somehow with the Rose Namajunas game plan of that first fight. Be faster, be slicker, create an opening to an undeniable knockout. I mean, you get hit with a head kick, unless your name is Robert Whittaker, you are going down, right? We've seen it happen plenty of times, right? Unless your name is Robert Whittaker, and he's been hit by Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa, by the way, with head kicks, right? So unless your name is that guy, right,
Yep.
you're not going down. So that just shows you the power of head kicks and the. I mean, I think that performance, that along with the JJ performance, are the standouts of Rose's career. To be honest, the first JJ fight where she knocked her out with punches. So that is for me, that is the only path to victory I can see for Yan Xiaonan in this fight. I think she's got to keep her range, keep Zhang Weili on the inside of that cage, if you know what I mean. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
kind of go around that inner cage, right? You know, they have that inner octagon, the black marking. If I'm Yan Xiaonan, I'm putting my footprints all on that and I'm going around and around. I'm jabbing, I'm kicking, knees, stomach, and then bam, up to the head. That's the biggest weakness we've seen from Zhang Weili. She does hold herself very tight anyway in her defense. I think that's got to be the only path for victory for Yan Xiaonan. I mean, there's not really much of a height difference or a reach difference in the two actually either. So yeah, it's a tough night for Yan Xiaonan. Other than that, I don't see how she does it. Honestly, I do not see how she does it. Zhang Weili is just better in every single facet, to be honest. Like I can't
Exactly.
see how you get around it.
You're not wrong. Anything she does, your only hope is to do faster than Wei Li, but Wei Li is already so fast. And
Yeah.
in Yan's previous fight, she seems like she is slower. Doesn't have the pop that Wei Li has.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't see any chances for Yan. I actually think we'll have all finishes in the main event, in the main card. Sorry. So
Ooh.
I see another finish for Wei Li. I think we kind of will see her kind of what Esparza did to Yan, taking her down, doing crucifix and TKOing her. I see Wei Li doing the same thing. I think she's gonna be too fast on top with her hands. Then when Yan's gonna be focused on her head, that's when the takedown will happen, and just have her way. No, she had how Wei Li did with Lemos, striking, and then took her down and just ground and pounded. Which I was shocked it wasn't stopped by the ref anytime during that fight. I think we'll see exactly how she did in her last fight will happen in this fight versus Yan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the rankings now. I mean, who else do you have in there? Tatiana Suarez, really, but did she get re-injured recently, or am I thinking of Irina Aldana? Right. So yeah, she's really the only
Yeah.
other one that you could have had on this card. So I definitely think it's the best fight in the division. I just think it sucks for Yan Xiaonan, to be honest. Like, I think it really sucks for her. Like you said, she hasn't looked amazing in her last few performances, although she did finish Jessica Andrade, which is difficult to do. But she definitely looked better in that first run before she picked up the Carla Esparza loss. It's tough for her, man. It's really, really tough. Weili is just such a monster. I'd like to have seen, I think the fight you would have wanted to see here is Zhang Weili going up and challenging Alexa Grasso, for example. But obviously with injuries, the Valentina narrative, this is definitely the best of the female fights they could have put on if they were going to put a female championship fight on this main card, which I really like. And I like that they've got the spotlight there as the co-main event. I'm also very glad they didn't put the next fight we're going to talk about over the top of it, because it would then devalue women's mixed martial arts, which I think is incredibly entertaining. So I like it, but for me, Zhang Weili, does she finish her? That's the question. I'm leaning towards a yes, probably by some sort of submission, I would say.
Okay.
You think a knockout?
I think it's TKO. Yeah. But although Wei Lee's really good at submission as well, so but who am I? Who am I to tell it? But it's your prediction. It's your prediction. I mean,
No, I mean I'm just spitballing. Yeah, I think I'm going to go a submission, maybe round two. I honestly don't think it's going to go that long. I think Jan will just about hold out in that first round. But then I think once, but then again, see, this is the conflict I have with Zhang Weili.
yeah,
She seems to be one of those fighters that wants to go and dominate the other person in their own backyard, so to speak. Right? What she did to Carla, what she did to Joanna, that tends to be what she likes to do and what motivates her. So maybe she is going to go and knock her out in the first or second round or something like that. I'm going to have a little more of a think about it before I give my official pick, and we'll see if you're a bit more concrete than I am.
Well, I was looking at Yan has one loss by knockout, one loss by submission, and one loss by decision.
Mm.
So if you want to see her weak spot, you can't really tell. It's just gotta overwhelm her and see where you can overwhelm her, and where you can overwhelm her more. If that's English.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm just going based how Whaley's previous fights went. I think she's gonna overwhelm on the wrestling. She's gonna get her taken down, and she will get a TKO finish over Yan in round 2.
So we're both thinking early.
Yeah, I think round 1 feeling out kind of process to see, and then Willie's gonna be like, "Wow, this is too easy. Let me just get this done. Quick paycheck, performance of the night bonus." Second round finish. Go back to China. Yeah.
I'm leaning between submission and TKO. Definitely first or second round. I'm going to go submission. I think Jan's just about going to be able to survive on the feet and avoid, because it's in the big octagon as well. So I think Jan's going to be able to avoid the big strikes. I think Zhang Weili is just going to get a hold of her and just kind of big sister her a little bit and just kind of throw her around. I mean, would she be the big sister who's the older of the two ladies? 30. Zhang Weili is 34. Yan Xiaonan 34. Okay, so technically Yan Xiaonan would be the big sister because she's born in June, whereas Zhang Weili is born in August. So yeah, okay, she's gonna little sister or whatever. I think that's what we're gonna see. I think she's gonna ragdoll her in that second round, catch her with an armbar or some sort of choke or something like that. So far we're in agreement on one fight.
Yeah, but I was gonna mention what a way to get the Chinese people to stay up to watch this fight.
Well, actually, not in China, because when I used to live in China, the main cards of these pay-per-views usually start at about 10 a.m., 10, 11 a.m. because of the time difference.
Oh, well, there you go. So you have an early Sunday morning. You'll have some fights to watch.
Yeah, it used to be a lot of fun. I remember watching the first Conor and Dustin fight in an Irish pub in the middle of Shenzhen, which is the city I lived in. Having beers at like 11:30 in the morning, it was fantastic. It's good. It's a good time zone to be in. And I don't know, and they weren't pay-per-view over there either. They were shown on like you had to pay for a subscription to the channel, but not for the actual fight. So it was good. But anyway, that brings us on to probably one of my favorite fight bookings of all time. There's no question how good this fight is. It's Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt. So, mate, tell me you're as nervous as I am about this fight. I mean, one thing that comes to my mind, actually, I don't know if you've seen the Guy Ritchie film Snatch. Have you heard of it?
Yes, yeah, of course. I like Brad Pitt with his Irish accent.
Yep. So there's a scene in there that when this fight was made, bearing in mind the two fighters' histories and what they've got going on in their various divisions, there's a scene in that where Turkish gets pinned down by a load of, I think they're Irish gangsters. And Tommy comes in with his revolver, with his gun, and he kind of says to them, "Right, get off." And then one of them squares up to him and he says, Go on, do you want me to pull the trigger? Do you want to see if I've got the minerals?" And I'm thinking, that is this fight. This fight is both fighters saying, "Yeah, I've got the minerals. I don't care." Justin Gaethje is number one contender to Islam Makhachev. I think we would all pretty much agree on that. And Max Holloway, could be argued as number one contender to Ilia Topuria if Volk is not going to fight for a little while. But both of them are saying, nah, that doesn't matter. We just want to put on a hell of a fight. We've both got the minerals to throw down at UFC 300 for the BMF title fight. I mean, I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous about this.
I have nerves, but it's excitement. It's like I can't wait to see this fight. It's like when we Gaethje's last fights, it was Fiziev. We were excited. When it was Poirier, we were excited. When it was Oliveira, we were super excited. It was like still the same nerves, but with Holloway, it's a whole different game. It's like I don't think Gaethje has faced someone with this much output because Max will fire 600 shots in like a minute. And you have to like try to defend yourself from that. And Gaethje, every punch he throws, he has like 3 trucks behind it, throwing it with it. So, I'm just super excited. I feel like people are underestimating Max for some reason. You think Gaethje will just get his way with it, but I think Max has a lot of experience. He has faced knockout artists like Poirier twice. He faced Arnold Allen. He faced Calvin Kattar. He faced Volk. Volk's a hard hitter too, and even Max in his last fight, even though Korean Zombie's like retirement fight, but Korean Zombie cracks, and Max withheld all that. But saying that was all a featherweight as well, but a little advantage for Max. He doesn't have to cut that extra 10 pounds to make featherweight. He's gonna be looking a little bit more refreshed, I think, and based off the pictures we saw, Max looked like he bulked up a little bit or something.
It's bulking season in Hawaii. Yeah.
Yes, bulking season. He looked like he didn't go the GSP or John Jones route of taking 3 years off to bulk up to move up a weight class.
Yeah.
But it's not a 15-pound difference how GSP went from welterweight to middleweight and John Jones from light heavyweight to heavyweight. It's only 10 pounds to move up from featherweight to lightweight. Max has experience with lightweight. He did fight Poirier. He was supposed to fight Khabib. He fought Volk, who Volk also moved up to lightweight. He didn't go his way, but I wouldn't be looking down on Max on this fight. But what an amazing fight! Like I have nothing to say, even if there's no BMF belt attached to this. This fight gets me going.
Yeah, this is the fight that dreams are made of. Like I said in the intro to this part, it may be one of my favorite fight bookings of all time because it is just incredible. It's so rare, I think, in professional sport that you get 2 guys at the peak of their powers, really. You tend to see it a bit more, I guess, in MMA because of the way the matchups are done, but definitely maybe a bit more you're seeing it in boxing, but even still not to the extent that you would see a fight like this put together. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's got car crash written all over it just because of the way Justin Gaethje is. And Max Holloway is everybody's favorite fighter, right? Everybody loves the guy.
He's
with good reason.
Favorite fighter. He's my favorite fighter. He's been my favorite fighter for a long time. Like he's up there with with Adesanya, like 1-2. Like I always loved him.
Yeah, and and that's why I get nervous. That's why I get nervous because of the type of fight. And I just love it. I love the way Holloway said, yeah, Volk deserves that rematch. Let him get that rematch. Like that's why I took this fight. I mean, that's just so humbling and so down to earth for the guy. And that's part of the reason everybody loves him. The media week is going to be phenomenal with him, with his interviews coming out and things like that. And it's going to be the same with Gaethje. These guys don't have any bad blood, which is great. They're both super confident in their own abilities. And it's just incredible. Like and this is like in theory the middle of the card, right? This fight. So we talk about that fight fatigue. Imagine what we've already sat through before we get to this. And then we've got kind of those 2 at the top. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Before we get into the matchup, I mean, a big narrative around this, and what we talked about just before, is the futures of each fighter in their respective divisions. If Max wins, does he move up? Oh, I mean, what do you think? Let's maybe start with, well, you can choose. Start with Max or Justin, but what are the stakes for this fight for each fighter?
Oh, the stake. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those fights, when even a fighter loses, their stock doesn't go down.
Yeah.
I think after this fight, none of their stocks will go down. The only stake we probably would be talking about is for the actual championship belt. Because we were certain Gaethje was going to fight Islam for the lightweight belt.
Yeah.
And taking this fight, and especially if you lose against a featherweight, I don't think he'll be next, especially with what Poirier did versus Benoit Saint-Denis with Oliveira and Sarukian on the card. Islam wanted to fight soon. He says talking about as soon as June or July, and there's also in October there's that Abu Dhabi card that's always there. So that would be the stake I would be more worried about, but who cares? We have Gaethje versus Holloway. Not a main event, not a co-main event, but the third fight on the main card.
Yeah.
UFC 300.
Yeah.
The stakes for Holloway, I think because he's moving up to lightweight, it doesn't affect him at featherweight. I think the only clear contender we could see at featherweight will be Movsar Evloev, because we have that that Topuria versus Volkanovski rematch, and we potential trilogy who we don't know what's going to happen. That fight has to happen first before anything else happens. We're talking about Rodriguez and Ortega fought a few months ago now, is Ortega back in the championship conversation?
Yeah.
Cater and Sterling are fighting at the featherweight. They're just outside the contenders. Cater either looks amazing or he looks amazing. He's like one fight away from a championship. Arnold Allen just lost to Movsar Evloev, and Evloev is like on such a big win streak, you can't deny him of a championship next. So he definitely probably is one fight away if he fights somebody in top 5. So I think who has the bigger stakes to lose here is definitely Gaethje. Holloway is just there, like, let's fight, baby. Bless. What's it saying? The best is blessed, and the blessed is Max is, yeah. All aboard, the blessed train. So
yeah,
I'm actually just getting nervous talking about it right now. It's like hitting me. It's like Gaethje and Holloway. Man. Do you think you agree with the stakes? Like, I think Gaethje has the more stakes losing, but he's like a company man. He's like, I'll do this fight.
Yeah. I think definitely Justin has more to lose out of this fight. I think if you're Max and you lose, it probably rubs off lightweight pretty much for you. I mean,
yep.
Yeah, if you're going to go up and you can't get past Justin Gaethje, really, unless you could do a rematch with Poirier to get a number 1 contender shot. That pretty much
that'll be another good fight.
It pretty much takes that away, right? If you're Max and you win, then it puts a real spanner in the works, because then it's like, okay, does he? I don't know. Do you do the Poirier rematch? Although I think Islam has said he wants to fight Dustin off the back of what he did to Benoit Saint-Denis. So, you could do a BMF rematch between Poirier and Holloway. Or
you could even have a rematch with Oliveira if Oliveira wins.
There's a certain Irishman that if he comes in and beats Michael Chandler, right? If you're Max Holloway holding that belt, that BMF belt, and you want to do a defense like Gaethje has done, you could set that up absolutely. If McGregor gets through Chandler, and obviously the Diaz fight isn't there, there's options, man. I mean, if Max Holloway wins, the world really is his oyster. He can always go back down holding that BMF belt. You just don't know. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Justin has got the highest stakes if he loses, and if he wins, but it's still almost a little bit unclear. I mean, he's almost got to win in spectacular fashion, really, to jump ahead of Dustin, which sounds a bit weird because he head kicked KO'd Dustin into oblivion last summer. So it is a bit weird how it's all playing out. But the minerals on these two guys for taking this fight, despite their own circumstances, you got to love it. And I think for that alone, if he does fall away quickly, gets out minimal damage, which I don't see happening, but if he does, then yeah, he could turn it around for the summer and take on Islam, because Justin is one to turn around pretty quickly. I mean, his last was the Dustin fight in July. I mean, that's probably his biggest gap in fighting since he's joined the UFC, right?
Yeah, but I think Justin wants to take it a bit more serious. I feel like for an Islam camp, he would take the full 3 months or 8 weeks.
Yeah,
to prepare for Islam, because it's a different matchup. He has that experience of being there with Khabib, but there still is Islam's not Khabib, so you still want to have that training. But it also helps that Islam and Gaethje have the same manager agent.
Yeah, so that always helps, right? So no, I think it's a cloudy upside for Gaethje. I mean, he's doing it just to be a BMF, which I guess is all the upside you need. I mean, both these guys are going in the Hall of Fame, no matter what you say, because they're both just incredible fighters. So that their legacy is already assured. I mean, Max Holloway's legacy is already assured. He doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. Max Holloway could retire tomorrow, and he's still one of the greatest featherweight, possibly pound for pound UFC fighters of all time, right?
And he's only 32.
Yeah, and he's only
32 years old. Like we forget, he was champion in his 20s. Like he dominated so early in his career already at such a young age, and technically, like your body prime's at 27 to 32, 33. Like, who knows what bulk Max, or we could have a new mystical fighter of lightweight Max Holloway. See what happens there.
That would be sick. One thing to say before we get into the matchup is go back, if anyone hasn't, you've got Fight Pass. I watched it on the plane actually just this last weekend. Year of the Fighter, Max Holloway, where he does Anthony Pettis and the two Jose Aldo fights. It's about 35 minutes long, and it takes you back to that year where he did those 3 fights in 16? I think he did those fights, which is just ridiculous. 2017, 2016, which is just ridiculous when you think how long he's been around. So, the matchup. What do we think about the matchup, other than car crash?
2 car crashes. Here's what I'll say. So, in the past, who Gaethje fought, like, who has he fought has such a high output other than like Chandler?
Possibly Fiziev.
Possibly Fiziev, yeah, Fiziev. He's more of a Muay Thai, right? He stands on the outside, tries to land on your leg kicks, start low, go high.
Yeah.
And like Chandler, and maybe Poirier, but Poirier starts slow, right? He wants to get a first good read in round 1. That's what I think cost him in that rematch versus Gaethje, where he got in the head kicked, and maybe Alvarez. Alvarez just throws like a mofo. That's just like he just.
Well, this is the tough one. Sorry to interrupt, but this is the tough one with Justin Gaethje. It's like you've almost got to cut his UFC career in half, right? There's the pre-Trevor Whitman era, and the post-Trevor Whitman era, right, where he just completely changed his style. But yeah, in terms of output, you're struggling. There's no one similar that he's fought.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You have to keep in mind that with Trevor Whitman wants him to be more patient and read his shots, right? Because what he did was Oliveira. If you remember with Oliveira, I think he threw away a bit of the game plan, and he's like, "I'll just swing for the fences." This guy just gets knocked down, and he got a little bit happy with his striking, and then he got caught eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Max is a bit different, and sorry, Max is also. I don't want to be wrong here, but I feel like Max is probably his tallest matchup in a while, right? Because Poirier is 5'9", Fiziev is like 5'6", Oliveira is probably
small.
Yeah, Oliveira is probably the closest. He's 5'10". So Max will get the height advantage, and he throws a lot of output. So the punches will be going from, kind of downwards. He has to protect himself from up there. So I think that's where Gaethje's probably the most vulnerable. And when you saw when Gaethje, like you mentioned, it's hard. Like when Michael Johnson, when he first came in, they throw haymakers at each other, and Gaethje did get caught, but that was a different Gaethje as well. Everybody evolved into the fighter he is today. It just can Gaethje handle the output that Holloway's gonna throw. If you look at the Poirier Gaethje rematch one, because he was defending a lot. He was defending well. He was defending and waiting for the counter. So Gaethje has to utilize his leg kicks. Sorry. Gaethje has to utilize his leg kicks and try to defend most shots. Like, because it's not just like a 1-2 is coming your way. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe a spinning body kick coming towards you at the end. And just get ready with the output. Get ready with the output for Gaethje. Holloway, well, his chin hasn't lied to us in the past. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna lie to us here. I think Holloway. I don't see Holloway getting too battered up here if too much. Poirier couldn't even get a knockdown. I think Poirier, in terms of combo punches, hurt more. So eventually will get you knocked down, right? Especially the counter punches we just saw with Benoit Saint-Denis. I think it's just output versus power. What will break down first?
Oh, it's curious. Yeah, I was just having a look back at UFC stats there as you were talking about the punching numbers. I mean, the only person to outstrike Max Holloway is Alexander Volkanovski. Even
That
Poirier,
third fight.
All of them actually, by the looks of it, apart from the first one. No, all of them. Yeah, he outstruck him in all of them. Yeah, he outstruck him in all of them. In the last fight, 199 to 127, 137 to 102, and then 157 to 134. The Volk is the only guy to have outstruck Holloway in the most recent run, pretty much.
What's crazy? You kept saying every fight the output just kept going up and up.
Yeah, so it's crazy. It's crazy. The last time out against Chan Sung Jung, he threw 75, but that's because he knocked him out.
Right. In 2 rounds, right? 2 rounds.
Yeah. Against Arnold Allen, he doubled Arnold Allen's output. Which, if you were to compare, I guess, Max's previous opponents, Arnold Allen is probably the most similar you're going to get to Justin Gaethje in terms of the way he throws his strikes, the way he carries himself. Arnold Allen does have that power. And he is able to get in there and do it. But Justin Gaethje is just such a different monster. I mean, as a matchup, yeah, it's very much what you were talking about, right? It's accuracy and output versus power. And I think it's just going to be the measure of, I don't know. Is Justin going to go after the leg kicks again, right? Is he going to kind of go back to that one? Yeah, you have to get back, right? Stop the movement.
Can you remind me, if you have the numbers in front of you, how many strikes did Holloway throw against Calvin Kattar, and how much landed?
It just says on UFC stats, it's 445 strikes.
He landed or threw?
It doesn't differentiate. It just says strike. Maybe I can go onto the website and have a look.
How much did you say? 430?
400 and... Oh, you put me on the spot. 445.
445 strikes thrown, let's say.
Yeah.
If it's not even landed, just thrown in a 25-minute fight. Yeah. So that's like motivating Max. Max hasn't fought in a while as well. When Max is refreshed, when he hasn't fought like 3 times in a year. His last fight was Korean Zombie, was pretty short. He has a good enough break. So I think it's pretty good.
Let's have a look.
That's 17 strikes a minute for Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Fight overview: significant strikes by target, full fight position. It doesn't really break it down very well. Come on, UFC, sort your stuff out. Anyway, 129 headshots, 66 to the body, 35 to the leg. So yeah, it seems like 445 attempted. Total strike. Yeah, total strike 251 landed, out of 445.
That's still a lot of work. You got to defend from all those shots, even if it doesn't land. Like that's Cater with his defense, but Gaethje with his defense, Gaethje likes to stand straight and just cover up, and especially with those head kicks or those body kicks. We saw it against Poirier. He really leaned down to try to block them. If you could fake that and go high, and Max has good Muay Thai and kickboxing, probably better than Poirier's, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Like what he did with the the head kick in the second fight versus Volkanovski, where he knocked him down.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and Max isn't really known for that.
No, because it sneaks up on you. He'll find a good time to do it. He won't waste his energy to not do it. He'll waste his energy in throwing strikes, but it doesn't seem like he's wasting energy because his cardio is so good.
Yeah. Right. Let's get to it. Official prediction. What are you saying?
We're definitely going to go different here again. And I'm going to surprise people, but I'm going to think it's going to be Max Holloway, TKO,
Ooh.
round 4. Round 4 or 5. I think it's going to be a doctor stoppage, too many shots, something like that. Something like you can't take it anymore. It's going to be like a standing TKO.
Yeah. I'm gonna put it out there.
I'm kind of biased as well because I really like Max, but I love Gaethje too. So it's hard. It's like a flick of a coin.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna put it out there, but I hate to jinx it. But I can't pick against Max Holloway. But I'm gonna go decision. I think it's gonna be an absolute war. Max Holloway is gonna split decision it, something like that. I honestly don't see, because I think I agree with you. It's gonna be one of those we're gonna be talking about, maybe output versus damage. And I think Max is going to do it on output, whereas Justin is going to do the damage. And maybe some of the judges will see it that way. I think this is going to be a really, really intriguing fight, and one that's the one I'm looking forward to most on the card. But we have spent 25 minutes going on. I think just
one clear prediction: fight of the night.
Yeah.
If we can even call something fight of the night,
it's going to be that, right? It's going to be that. Right, that brings us on to the next one. Lightweight ramifications. Charles Oliveira, Arman Zaharukian. I mean, this is a banger of a fight, right? This is a real banger of a fight. I think it could be, even though it's on the main card in that second fight position, it could be a bit of a sleeper, like about how good this fight's actually going to be. I think a lot of people are seeing Charles Oliveira. The fanboys are kind of coming out and jumping on this one and maybe taking over a bit of the narrative, but man, this is a bloody good fight. Like, this is dangerous for Oliveira taking this fight, right? Really, really dangerous, I think.
Well, every Oliveira fight was dangerous, right? He fought Islam, he fought Gaethje, fought Poirier, fought Chandler, fought Tony. Even though Tony was just ended his losing streak, he just fought Gaethje.
Yeah,
like, and not to fought Benny Dariush, like he's the one who's ended his win streak. And not to forget, he finished all those fighters except Tony.
Yeah.
He is a finishing machine. And it's not just submissions, TKOs. He TKO'd Benny Dariush. He TKO'd he TKO'd Chandler for the belt. He dropped Gaethje. He heard Gaethje and then quickly jumped on the submission. He submitted Poirier.
Yeah, big time.
So this Oliveira's next level. Also, Oliveira just announced a baby boy is coming his way. So last time Oliveira had a child, he kind of went on a 13-fight win streak. So we'll see now what happens here.
Yeah, Dad Oliveira. Let me jump in 1 second. I was wrong about Max Holloway. I read the wrong fight. He did actually get 447 total strikes against Qatar. The one I was reading was Yair Rodriguez. Sorry, I just wanted to correct before people are shouting at me in the comments. But please go back to Oliveira.
Yeah, so Oliveira, and I think he's hungry for that belt. He wants to come back for that belt. It seemed like something wasn't. He did better than what most people give him credit to against Islam. He did get taken out and submitted, but he did land a few times. He got Islam against the cage and tried to do his way, but Islam just a really good wrestler. So I'm definitely favoring Oliveira in this fight. I do think the streak will continue, like how Gaethje, left fought Viziev for a chance to be in the top five, beat him. Poirier gave a chance to Benoit Saint-Denis be in the top five, and Poirier beat him. And I think this is Oliveira's turn. He's gonna maybe Arman Tsarukyan to get into the top five and fight for the belt. He's gonna beat him, but Tsarukyan has looked different since that Islam fight, the first fight, and he's been on a roll recently. Only having that split decision loss to Gamrot, but that was such a close fight as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't split decision; it was unanimous, but you could have argued against anything. You could have argued against it. Just Gamrot is such a different stylistic matchup. He's just so heavy, wrestling based, and then like a lot of turtle like shelling. He tries to take you down no matter what. But you can't look down. You definitely can't look down on Tsarukyan. And if you compare the last fights, Oliveira, Tsarukyan did finish Dariush faster than Oliveira did, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. Oliveira did it in 4 minutes 10. Tsarukyan did it in 1 minute 4.
So 3 minutes faster. But you could also argue that Oliveira did the damage on Benny before.
Yeah,
so it was an easier path for Tsarukyan. But he did also. So it's hard to tell. I'm definitely giving the advantage for Oliveira. Depends on kind of Tsarukyan we see, if he's gonna go striking heavy. But I do not see, the only way I could see Tsarukyan being better is being on a top position, and in the guard. But Oliveira has a slick guard; he could pull off anything. It's depending how Tsarukyan will see if it comes for an R bar, for a triangle, for a sweep. You don't want Oliveira on your back. That's the only thing you don't want. So
yeah, most submissions in UFC history, right, Charles Oliveira. So you don't.
most finishes as well. So
Yeah, most finishes.
not
You don't want to mess. You don't want to mess there with Tsarukyan. I mean, I feel like it's almost a bit similar to the co-main event, right? You've got Charles Oliveira, really, who's so good everywhere and also so experienced and just looking so good at lightweight, with those only losses really coming to the best of the best. Well, the only loss, sorry, being Islam Makhachev, and before that, the ridiculous win streak that he was on, just beating everybody who's anybody. I mean, even if you go back to that Kevin Lee fight, Kevin Lee was on form at the time. And then you've got Ferguson, Chandler, Poirier, Gaethje. You can't.
That's a death row.
You don't get better than that. You don't get better than that.
Who else beats that death row? Who else goes back to back? Chandler, Poirier, Gaethje, Islam.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't beat Islam, but who goes? That's a death row. Even Tony, like Tony back then was still top 5. He did get a beating from Gaethje, but that's death row. Like nobody, I don't know in lightweight who could go through all of that.
Yeah.
Except maybe Habib, who finished Gaethje and Poirier, but that's death row at lightweight. That's the top of the food chain.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of win streaks going, I mean, you probably only look to the Habibs who did McGregor, Gaethje, Poirier. Was it Poirier, Gaethje? McGregor, Poirier, Gaethje. As another 3-fight win streak that's as impressive as that. I mean, I do kind of see it similar to that co-main event. I think Arman Tsarukyan's really got to be switched on. He's really got to be able to do something that Oliveira hasn't seen or can't deal with. I mean, if Tsarukyan does pick up the win here, man, I think that could propel him ahead of Dustin Poirier if he can turn it around for the Islam rematch. Because you remember he gave a hell of a fight to Makhachev on his debut
in
in
Russia.
It was, right?
Yeah, it was a debut. Yeah, it was a debut. So, and that was like how we said fighters evolve. Like if that was a hell of a fight, and we saw back then, we're talking about how Islam was gassing out towards round 3 at the end, and Arman was trying to turn the tides. And if it was a 5-rounder, what could have happened, right?
Yeah,
if you remember correctly. But that was his debut, and he gave a competition to Islam, so we'll see. But Islam has definitely evolved. So, and Tsarukyan has evolved too. He looks like a much better fighter than the first time we saw him versus Islam.
Yeah, totally.
Islam. So he's been on a little bit of he's been getting more finishes since then as well. You know, he finished Dariush, finished Ismagulov, which is also, that was a hell of a matchup. Finished Joel Alvarez, and and Christos Giagos. Fought Frolova, and Frolova's been looking, decent. He's like just around the ranking. So
Yeah, yeah, he's looking.
it's
Roberto's looking very good. Roberto's looking
just
very
whoever
good.
looked recently better. It's the recency bias, and I think it's Oliveira. I think just it's only Islam that was in his way. That's it. Who else was in the who else is in Oliveira's way? And we know Islam, how good he is, especially after the two Volkanovski fights.
Yeah, it's a massive fight for both guys, and I think it is very much okay. Is somebody going to break into that top five of these guys that we've mentioned? Well, I mean, Armin's already there. He's already number 4. So what am I talking about? The top 3, shall we say, of Oliveira, Gaethje, and Poirier.
For the belt, yeah.
Yeah, if you're
Next
going
chance at the championship.
if you're going to break into that belt conversation, is Armin going to be the man to do it? What do you think? What's your prediction on this one?
Well, Arman's not the man to do it. I think we'll see Charles Oliveira submission round 1.
Whoa.
Round
Whoa.
1 submission.
Wow, just like that. Woof.
I think we'll have an interesting minute and a half, 2 minutes. Sorry to interrupt you. We'll have an interesting minute and a half, 2 minutes. But I think Oliveira would just be like, nah, this is my belt. Gaethje will get messed up in the BMF belt. I'm gonna make a performance right now. Call out Oliveira and the Vegas crowd. The champion has a name. What's his name? And everybody shouts. Charlie Olives. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I just had to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm going against that guy either. To be honest, I think there's too much of a pedigree, too much experience when you fought the guys you fought, and I just think he's still at that level with what he did to Benny Dariush. I think it's going to be second round because usually Charles Oliveira gets beaten from pillar to post in the first round, at least the first part of the first round, and then he comes back. So I think a second round finish. TKO. I'm going to go with TKO. I don't think it's going to be anything on the floor. I just don't think Armin's going to be stupid enough to go down there with him or allow himself to get caught.
Or maybe Turkin's ego might actually bring him to the floor. He does fight sometimes with his ego, right? He's been a little bit confident recently. So I do think he's going to be like, hey, look, Islam brought you to the floor. I can do that too and submit you. And then he's going to get caught.
Yeah. Could be. So my official prediction is round 2, Charles Oliveira. And that brings us to the unexpected, I guess, opener of the main card, considering the guys that you've got underneath it on the prelims. Is Bo Nickel going up against Cody Brundage. I mean, you kind of alluded to it in the intro of the pod there, that this is the guy we could be talking about at UFC 400. That being said, is there any way he doesn't win this fight?
I mean, I think this is the only. I don't know. Over under 30 seconds a minute for Bo Nickel. It's tough to say. I mean, Cody is coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. Before that was a 3-fight losing streak, and he lost to Cedric Dumas, who's not been looking good recently.
Yeah.
I mean, you also lost to Rodolfo Vieira. I could explain that loss. Michael Olejniczak. Olejniczak, yes. I could also explain that loss. He's been looking good recently, but Jacob Malkoum, a win versus Jacob Malkoum and Zach Reese, it is 2 first-round back-to-back finishes. I don't think whatever you do to Reese in Texas, I believe that was in Texas, and then what you did to Malkoum, you're not going to get it down on Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel's much stronger, much faster, better wrestler. Also, Bo Nickel is so young. He's just 28, going through the prime of his career. He's been learning MMA now. I don't see him. I just see him getting better and better, especially with striking. What he did his last fights against Val Woodburn. Bo Nickel, TKO minute into the fight just to get the main card going. Just quickly get through it, That's
got to be Cody right.
Cody hasn't
finished everything else.
Cody hasn't showed anything to prove he deserves the spot or to be on the main card. If it was anybody else, it's just because it's Bo Nickel, he has that chance. And I think the lights will be too bright. Bo Nickel's already fought him headline MSG when he was wrestling in NCAA. So Bo Nickel, just classic day in the office. First round finish, get the performance of the night bonus, and talk about Hamzat in interviews after the fight with Ariel Helwani or whatnot. That's how
Yeah.
I see it going. And probably get Bo Nickel a ranked fight soon. Like, stop babying this guy, get him into the rankings, and see how he actually does.
Yeah, get him in there, get him in with the big boys. I mean, I agree. I think he'll steamroller him in the first round. That's what it's set up to be. I mean, given the talent that we have, do you think he deserves to be on this spot?
Mm-mm.
No.
No. I mean, I alluded to it earlier. I know Dana is trying to get him to superstardom, right? Opening up the main card. But you have Yuri Prohaska, Alexander Rakic, Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling. You have Holly Holm, Kayla Harrison, like boxing Hall of Fame versus wrestling, Olympic wrestling, Sadiq Yusuf, Diego Lopez. If I just keep going down the card, like all these guys definitely deserve to be better, have a better spot in the card, especially how many former champs have I mentioned already? So I think I personally when I put it, but if he gets a first round finish, I think either way, wherever you put him, he'll got a first round finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think at least that Calvin Kattar fight, Aljamain Sterling or Holly Holm, Kayla Harrison deserves that opening spot. But you can see the logic as to why they've done what they've done, and you've alluded to it there. Plenty more to get stuck into on the prelims. If you're still with us, an hour or so in, we're going to break down the prelims for you. So we put the main card behind us. We jump into the prelims. Featured prelim, as I've got it at the moment, is Yuri Prohaska against Alexander Rakic. Probably the fight I would maybe have on the main card over Bo Nickel, but I guess you could argue Kayla Harrison or Sterling as well could be on there. But yeah, big number one contender fight at light heavyweight, especially with the title fight at the top of the bill.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. First thing with the next three fights, any of them could have replaced Bo Nickel, especially if you want to showcase Kayla Harrison in UFC now. And absolutely, this is a title leader. Yuri fought in his last fight against Pereira, lost. Some people argue it was a early stoppage. Yuri, the alpha male he is, said it was a good stoppage, and he agreed it was an early stoppage, so he probably wants to get back, and he's been looking fire on in his training videos when he's hitting the pads. Although I'm not a big fan of Rakic, I have to be honest here. Rakic has, other than his like impressive knockout versus Jimmy Manuel, he hasn't really shown me that he's like a championship level caliber in the UFC. I don't know if you agree with that.
I mean, I think at this point the guy's a bit of an unknown quantity, right? He's 32. He's jacked to the hilt. Like he looks like as light heavyweights go, he looks good for a light heavyweight. Obviously the leg injury to Jan Blachowicz beat, and on his way out, Thiago Santos, unanimous decision to Anthony Smith. Neither of those two victories have matured very well. I don't think for him. In fact, all of his victories, pretty much, apart from the loss to Volkan Ozdemir, that also hasn't aged very well. Volkan hasn't done much recently. Yeah, the Jimmy Manuel one, I totally agree. The Devin Clark one back to 2018 hasn't fought since 2022. It's one of those where you're kind of like surprised that he still is where he is in the rankings, considering I always go back to the Leon Edwards one, right? That he got bumped from the rankings because he didn't fight for a year and a half or whatever it was through COVID. And you've got somebody here in Rakic who is coming off a loss and hasn't won since 2021. So it's kind of like, it's a bit odd to me, you know?
He kind of took advantage when the light heavyweight division was weak, like that John Jones DC era, and then they both kind of left the division, and it was like kind of questionable who was like actually ranked. So he kind of took advantage when he came into the UFC with a big win streak, and he kind of like climbed the rankings quietly, but nobody considered him as a top contender. And then finally got the chance to fight like big names like Ozdemir, Smith, and Santos and Blachowicz, and did not impress. Especially now that his last fight against Blachowicz, he tore ACL and MCL, and he's coming off major surgery back in done in 2022 of May of 2022, and now he's coming back to fight Yuri, who has a fight under his belt, who's been fighting top of the division. With he beat Islamir first round, second round knockout, which Yuri could, which is Rakic couldn't do. Yuri then went on to beat Dominic Reyes, second round spinning elbow. We can never forget that, obviously.
Yeah.
Went on to fight Glover Teixeira, fight of the year that year. And then he fought Pereira. So Yuri has been fighting top guys in the division.
Yeah.
Compared to Rakic, who is still unknown, and I'm surprised that Yuri's coming into this fight as an underdog. So I think we're gonna cash in a few bucks here.
Is Yuri a dog at the moment?
He is a dog at the moment. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. That is interesting. That is interesting that he's a dog. I mean, I guess like you alluded to there, it's more, maybe it is more of a division than it actually is Rakic, because looking at the people behind him, you got Krylov, Walker, Roundtree, Ozdemir, Smith. Smith can't put a win together. Krylov is in and out. The only one that's really rising there is Khalil Roundtree, right? If you want to look at it, so you can kind of understand why he's still at number 5, which that kind of blows my mind. But anyway, that's a different story. As for Yuri, I mean, this is the kind of guy that Yuri Prochazka should be making easy work of, right? And he was making easy work of before he ran into Alex Pereira. You know, you talk about Dominic Reyes and Ozdemir in particular. Those guys were around about the Rakic level when he fought them, I think. Teixeira is a little bit different because I think he was kind of like I don't know, in his golden summer and kind of pulled it out of the bag where nobody expected him to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those where I really don't see what Rakic is going to be able to do to Prochazka, because you know Pereira's got that touch of death, which we clearly saw in that Madison Square Garden fight. So you can't even argue that. You know, Yuri was in that fight. I think Yuri was in that fight in the first round, and for bits of the second. So it's just odd, dude. It's just really, really odd, this fight.
And Yuri was landing on Pereira. I don't know if you kind of watch the sequence towards the finish. He backed up Pereira to the cage. Like he landed a few, like, his unorthodox. You know how he like kind of like bops like this and throws his punches from his hips. He landed on Pereira. It's just Pereira's death touch on his left hook. You know, something like, I guess Izzy's the only guy that doesn't go out naturally.
Yeah. The touch of the necromancer.
Took a few of those shots. So I just see this a quick finish win for Yuri, like he did with Uzdemir and Reyes. Like probably round 1 or 2, he's gonna get it done. Especially with Rakic coming off such a big surgery. And if you want to compare him, like he did fight 1 round for Jan Blachowicz. Did he impress? I mean, he did, in my opinion, if I remember correctly, he did win round 1, but like was super, super close. Obviously against Jan Blachowicz, it's tough to clearly win a round against him. He did not impress me. So I'm definitely riding Yuri. I'm a big fan of Yuri Prochazka. I like his samurai style, his unorthodox striking, and this like alpha male mentality he has and samurai stuff. It's pretty cool. So I think we're gonna see him right back. When you mentioned the title eliminator, I think this is just for Yuri, because we still have a certain guy called Magomed Ankalaev.
Yeah, I totally forgot about him.
Yes. And he was your pick to be champion.
And he's my pick. He still is my pick.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I keep talking about a 3-headed monster with Yuri, Jamal Hill, and Pereira are all champions in light heavyweight division, but Ankalaev is just right there. So depending how the main event goes and how this fight goes, Ankalaev should be screaming on top of his lungs that I should be next if Yuri loses. And if the main event isn't as exciting as we think would be.
Yeah, I think you could be right, and I've just looked up the odds there. Yuri Prochazka plus 114, Alexander Rakic minus 135. I mean, I guess
it's almost a pick 'em, but like it's still underdog. It's still money back.
Yeah, but I wonder if the history of that had Rakic as the underdog and people have put money on it to switch lines, so to speak. Maybe that could be the case.
Then
People do see
keep
it
putting money
close.
on Rakic. I don't care. Keep putting money on Rakic. I'll put all my money on Yuri. Keep making big underdog. I'll like it.
Oh man. Yeah, dude. I'm gonna go with my prediction. Prohaska by knockout. I think Yuri's
Yeah.
gonna do him, and I think he's gonna do him pretty violently, to be honest. Maybe even in the first round. And then I don't know whether that sets up again, it's one of those, right? If you go out and violently knock somebody out, it kind of elevates you to the top of the
Yeah.
pile. It very much depends what happens in that main event. I think if Pereira wins, it'll go to Ankalaev for the next title shot. But then if Jamal Hill wins, depending on how the fight goes, you could see a fight off, so to speak, between Ankalaev and Yuri Prohaska for the next shot. But yeah, what do you think, man?
Yeah, totally agree, man. I think Yuri's got this. I think it's gonna be TKO or knockout round 2. A little feeling out process. I don't know why Yuri doesn't like finishing fights in the first round, but second round finish for Yuri Prohaska. It might be a weird stoppage. I have a feeling he might aim for that leg and just test how well that surgery went for Rakic. I mean, everybody says that after major surgeries, like Chris Weidman, when he broke his legs, like I'm gonna throw my legs, but we'll see. Obviously, if he's fighting, he has recovered. So I'm interested to see. I'm a big fan of Yuri. You know, we saw him a lot of times during like the COVID years. He became champion and got injured. We haven't seen him in a while. Lost a pair really quickly, so I'm excited he's bouncing back so quickly.
Yeah, people forget very fast, man. He was on a 13-fight win streak before he met Alex Pereira's left hook or uppercut, what kind of wash shot it was. So, dude, I mean, the guy's an animal, and I fully expect him to come through this one. Just before that, it's Calvin Kattar and Aljamain Sterling. Aljo making his debut at 145. Kind of long been talked about, long anticipated debut up there. A fight like this is a really good one, I think, for Aljo. I think they've set him up really well. But Calvin Kattar is always dangerous. I just don't think he ever, from my perspective anyway, he can't quite break through. You know, we obviously saw what happened with Max Holloway, and I go back to the referencing the statistics that I messed up earlier on.
Say it right this time. Yeah.
He got absolutely dominated. I'm not even going to go for the number. I'm just going to say he got dominated. Lost to Arnold Allen recently and lost a split to Josh Emmett, whereas Aljo is coming off the loss to Sugar Sean O'Malley for the title. That round two TKO as well. Man, I mean, do you like Aljo at this weight class? Do you think this is a good move for him at his stage of his career? What are your thoughts?
I just want to mention quickly, he lost to Allen with a freak accident, right? He injured his leg, so he's also
it was a knee injury.
Right. He's also coming off an injury, but I do like the move for Sterling, but I think it's a bit too quickly. I wish he would have stayed bantamweight for just a bit longer. I know he got TKO by O'Malley in round 2, but I feel like he could have gotten that rematch real quick. But I know Merab's in the rankings, like, and next for the belt, so he wants to let his friend go for the belt. Bless you.
Thank you.
So, but if Sterling sees a path for him for victory in featherweight division, why not spice it up? Because I feel like if he wins this, him versus Ortega would be an interesting matchup. You know, both grappling jiu-jitsu aces, and So I do like the move. I think it's a bit early, but if he thinks the right time to move featherweight, why not? Why not? Because we clearly have, like we mentioned earlier, Topuria and Volkanovski up there, and we don't know who's next. So if he could climb up quickly, doesn't have to cut as much weight, get a classic backpack performance, and maybe even Masvidal.
I tell you what, man, you mentioned that name. How good would a prime top of his game Aljamain Sterling versus Ilia Topuria be? How good would that fight be?
And Sterling, I think he's an inch taller, so it'll be a classic wrestler versus striker matchup, right? And we like those, but am I crazy, or does it seem like Sterling's bigger than Topuria, especially how he looked at 135? So that would be a crazy matchup if you could get Topuria on the floor and see how he does there, right? Because he fought Mitchell, but Mitchell didn't have success getting on the floor.
Well, Topuria destroyed him on the floor.
Yeah, he destroyed him. Yeah,
absolutely destroyed Bryce Mitchell on the floor. So Topuria is 5'7", and Aljo is
Sterling's
also
5'7". Oh, okay.
5'7". Sterling's got a 2-inch reach advantage, but I mean that'd be a hell of a fight either on the floor or standing up. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Mhm.
This is a big one for Cater, I think. I think for his standing in the division and the standing in his whole career, to be honest. Like he loses this, there's not a lot left really that he can do to kind of redeem himself. You know, he's kind of already lost to those big guys, and especially if he loses to a guy coming up. Yes, it's Aljamain Sterling, but you know, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. You know, the winner, his win against Giga Chikadze is getting better,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
you can't hold off that one now. It's been 2 years and you've already lost to Josh Emmett. Maybe you get a rematch against Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen also coming off is he coming
It
off a
lost to
loss?
Mosar Evloev
Yeah, that's right. He's
and
coming
UFC
off a loss, isn't he?
297. Yeah, in Canada.
Exactly.
I saw it
Which it should have
live.
been a TKO with those knees, but we won't go there. We
I
won't
agree.
go there.
I agree. Me and Nathan had an argument about that, but
Anyway, so no, it's a big question for Calvin Cater. I mean, he's probably knocking on the wrong end of the age for the sort of weight class 36. We all know that statistic that people like to be bundling around. I don't know where it came from first. My credit is to Adam Catterall, but Luke Thomas maybe thinks he got it first. I don't know. But yeah, man, what do you think about the stakes for Calvin Cater?
I think it's a good matchup to see where Sterling's at, because we thought Sterling was big for bantamweight, but maybe small for featherweight. And Cater is just right up there in the top 10 of the featherweight division. He fought good guys. Fought Allen, fought Emmett, Giga, Max, Ige, Jeremy Stevens at the time, the knockout, Zabit, and Ricardo Lamas has a loss against Moicano. So it's interesting what kind of Cater we'll see. Is it the Giga versus the Giga Cater we'll see, or is it like the Max Holloway or versus Renato Moicano Giga we'll see? Or versus the Renato Moicano Cater we'll see. As if he comes in boxing heavy approach and defends the takedown well, stays on the outside and trying to outbox Sterling, he might have a good chance, as long as the only thing you don't want for Cater is to get Sterling on your back. Because you get Sterling on your back, that's it. That's game over for you, and you'll be on a 3-fight losing streak.
Big time. Do you think it happens? Do you think Sterling gets to his back? How does it go down?
I think Sterling wants to do a statement. He probably wants to do what he did to Corey Sandhagen, right? Chase him, get on the back real quick, and submit him. I think Cater has pretty good jiu-jitsu. With that Boston team he's training at with Rob Font. However, I don't think it'll be much of a statement for Sterling. I think it'll be a classic like performance on. He's gonna get on the back, get some shots from being on his back, out wrestle him, and eventually get a decision win just by dominating for 3 rounds.
Decision win. Interesting. I think complete opposite to you. Not complete opposite, just the opposite end of the fight. I'm going round 1 submission. I think Aljamain attaches himself to Calvin Cater. I think he gets inside somehow. Uses a bit more of a marauding style, kind of like Marab does. Gets in, takes him down, takes his back. Boom. Corey Sandhagen 2.0. I think that's the performance we're going to get out of Aljo, because he's also not stacked with time, right? He's 34. So if he's going to make a run at this division, probably got 3 fights in which to do it. He's got to make a statement. UFC 300. I really fancy Aljamain Sterling to go in there, sub him first round.
He is older, but he doesn't have to cut as much weight. It's only a 10-pound difference, but that 10 pounds does make a difference. So if you don't have to cut that, Friday night, you don't have to go on the scale cutting until 7 a.m. and you're walking on scale and be 135 for the 10 seconds. So you're on the scale. So
still a big boy.
Still a big boy. So, but I do like Sterling and featherweight and see how he does here.
Yeah, I think
People forget because he gets knocked out. He was champion in bantamweight for he got down, take down Cejudo, beat Jan. He got the first round versus O'Malley. So
everybody. He's done everybody in that division. Jan, Dillashaw, Cejudo, Sandhagen, Munoz. Yep. Everybody. He's done all the names really. Speaking of big people, Kayla Harrison. I've seen some things that keep popping up in my algorithm is Kayla Harrison's weight cut is impossible and everything like that. She's going up against Holly Holm. Kayla Harrison's last fight, I believe, was a 155 at lightweight in the PFL against ex-UFC fighter Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd, who traditionally fought a bantamweight in the UFC and missed weight a few times.
Yeah,
Bantamweight,
exactly.
yeah, missed weight a few times. Lots of narratives around this one. Obviously, Kayla Harrison's debut in the UFC. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist in judo. I mean, I do hate to say it, but is this a stylistic matchup that's favorable for her, going in against Holly Holm, or is there more to it?
No, I agree with you. I think stylistically it's good. It's unfavorable for Kayla Harrison. I think UC did it perfectly, especially with former champions like Holly Holm. And we know UC values Holly Holm very high. Like, I feel like if it wasn't on the UC 300, we'd have a main event Apex card for this fight. I'm just looking. Kayla Harrison, at least since 2021, has not fought the lowest weight class she fought. It was a catch weight at 150. So it just says, she fought 145 in 2020. I'm just nervous for that cut because this is a big difference, 155 to 135, and okay, you could weigh 136. That's still 19 pounds you cut from 155. So, like I said, when Costa was fighting, until she makes that, or Gaston when he was making 170, until she steps on that scale and that official goes 135, that's when I'll believe she's fighting.
Or 136, right? That's
136.
They get that extra pound, don't they?
136. And then 136, she weighs in there, I'll believe the hype. Because the bantamweight division and the women's division is a bit lacking. And she'll
very, very kind of you.
Yeah.
Very kind of you.
I mean, I don't want people to cancel me like Ryan Clark, but I think it's the big names. The big name. I like the judo style. If she could throw around Holly Holm, do what Ronda Rousey couldn't do, I think it will be very favorable for Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, it's got to be, can she make the weight one time, 136? Can she do it once? Then, can she do it again? Possibly. Could she do it a third time? Oof. I mean, that's gonna be tough. I don't see, I think it's very much I would imagine they've got her on a 3, 4, 5 fight contract, but maybe she'll do 2 or 3 and then retire. Like, I think winning UFC gold is one thing, then you've got to defend it. If she can do that, then I think she'll be off ski. I mean, we've seen how hard it is for the UFC, the biggest MMA promotion in the world, to build a 145 division, right? The competition is just not there. So we haven't seen Kayla Harrison, I don't think personally, really, really tested against the highest level opponents. And honestly, I don't think we will. As much as I'm now a massive fan of Raquel Pennington after speaking to her recently, she's an absolutely wonderful person and really, really lovely to interview.
Check it out on our YouTube page.
Check it out on the YouTube page. I very much agree with what you're saying. If she can ragdoll around Holly Holm, I don't think it's going to be too dissimilar. I could see her picking up the belt and then maybe doing one more. But who's that one more going to be against? You're going to tempt Amanda Nunes out of retirement?
Absolutely.
Possibly. Yep. Right? That's got to be it, a year down the line. But this is a big question about the weight cut, man. I mean, I've said before on previous podcasts, I think she's a bit of a weight bully. Asking Aspen Ladd to go up there to do that at 155, it's of course you're going to win. You're massively tipping the scales in your favor.
But where else? What other division was Amanda Nunes champion of?
Yeah, featherweight. But
well, you might have a catch weight, maybe not for a belt, but just for like a Conor type fight, Conor versus Diaz or Conor versus Poirier. You have a Nunes versus Harrison.
It's a super fight, yeah. It's an absolute super. I mean, we never really got it with Ronda and Chris Cyborg, right? That was the super fight before this kind of generation. It was Ronda and Chris Cyborg. Maybe you throw Gina Carano in there as well, but honestly, I don't know too much about how good she was or how big she was at the time. I just know the talk of Nunes and Cyborg. So I think if you're the UFC, that's probably what you got to try and do, right? You got to hope that Kayla can make the weight twice against Holly and then against Raquel. Because honestly, my opinion, I think she steamrolled Holly Holm. It's just that weight question. So you got to hope she does it twice, and then they do something to make that super fight to get Amanda back out of retirement. I think 145. I think you're spot on there. I think that's probably what they do. But then what do they do with that bantamweight title? Do they just make it vacant? Like what do you do with it?
No, I think she'll just still hold it. I think she'll still hold it. Just be like, oh look, our bantamweight champion versus the former bantamweight or versus the former woman goat of the UFC, and just
But for what
make a
belt though?
super
Do
fight.
you think they do it at
No
bantamweight
belt.
or at feather?
No.
No
I
belt.
think it depends. If you want to kind of entice Nunes to come back, be like, hey, you can come back. You don't have to cut as much weight. Go to 145. Kayla Harrison, you also don't have to cut as much weight. You guys can weigh in 146. And make it a super fight, and then throw in just a bunch. Just make it a super fight somewhere. Make it a fight night or a pay-per-view if you want to see how those numbers goes, because Amanda Nunes definitely already headline a few pay-per-views. If Kayla Harrison is a big star as she says she is, and how she's an Olympic medalist, right? So you could definitely do that fight. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't excite Amanda Nunes if like you just want to go for one fight.
Yeah,
I just want to mention how much does Holly Holm have in her left as well, because she's 42.
Yeah.
She's 42, and at least in the men's division, when you're over your 40s, is like it's tough. It's tough, right? We saw Glover obviously win at 42, but that's like an exception. We saw Rodney Couture when 43, 44, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago now. But I think this is one-sided. This is really one-sided.
Yeah, honestly, man, I can't see it another way. I feel really bad because I really like Holly Holm. As much as people think she's boring, I do really enjoy watching her from a technical standpoint and just being a complete nerd for things like that. I really like it from that perspective. She is a decision machine when she wins, and sometimes when she loses as well, pretty much. I just don't see it going well for her.
Her best years are behind her, that's for sure. And
absolutely, yeah.
It's you got to admit when it's time to retire. Maybe this is her last big fight because she fought everybody. She fought Rousey, she fought Nunes. She was bantamweight champion, so now it could be the last big name on her record. So
yeah,
let's see.
I mean, she is a consummate professional, so she'll come in ready.
Yes.
If you follow any of her social media, she's constantly training. I mean, she's the best. She's probably one of the best in shape 42-year-old women on the planet. There is no doubt about it. Before I give my official pick, whatever, well, I'm pretty sure everybody already knows what it is. I am gonna put this one out there. Why don't you do a female BMF? That's how you get Amanda Nunes back. Female BMF.
I'm glad you said that first, because I was thinking it. I don't want to sound ridiculous in saying it out loud, but yeah, I wouldn't mind like a female BMF or just another BMF belt. If depending what Max, if he fights for the belt, or Gaethje fights for the belt, so there's not going to be an actual BMF belt.
Because it could there's options with that, right? If either Kayla or Amanda wins that fight, you could then do the next one against Chris Cyborg, right? Because I don't know what her deal is with PFL and with Bellator, but she's going to be her and Dana. No, probably not.
Yeah, her and Dana don't have. Yeah. You could definitely dream of. Hey, we haven't mentioned Juliana Pena in this conversation. She likes to talk a lot.
Yeah, better that we don't. Better that we don't.
No, I'll bring her up until she gets a title fight.
I mean, to be fair, Raquel did say to me that's the fight they're targeting. So fair enough.
And who knows with Shevchenko as well. If she wants to move up, like I know Shevchenko might look a bit small against Kayla, but that would be a cool fight as well. We never know. There's definitely options for Kayla. It's not just like a one and done, two and done. It's definitely there's options.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see. I don't want to see Valentina. No. Valentina against Kayla would be too much, because it was already a struggle with Amanda and Valentina, right? So I think
we never know. Different matchups. Amanda was striking heavy, Kayla's judo heavy, and wrestling heavy. So maybe Shevchenko might land some shots. So, but we'll see. That's future. That might be a future matchup down the lineup.
Yeah, so I'm saying first round by however Kayla Harrison wants, to be honest. What do you think?
Yeah, let's make a statement. Kayla Harrison, first round, TKO. Brutal elbows on the ground. Let's do that.
Brutal elbows. Oof. Sorry, Holly. Sorry, Holly. Next, we go to the featherweight division. Sadiq Yusuf, Diego Lopez. Sadiq ranked number 13, so a step up for young Diego, who's really, I mean, is turning heads like too too subtle, really, a way to describe his introduction into the UFC. Sadiq is coming off a loss to Edson Barboza, whereas Diego is coming off that win to Pat Sabatini and Gavin Tucker. Lost his debut on short notice, I believe, against Movsar Rivloev, I mean, by unanimous decision, but came out of it with very high stock and then two first round finishes. This is a really fun fight, man. This is a put a smile on your face fight. Enjoy it while it lasts type thing, right?
Isn't it funny how Diego Lopez became such a fan favorite? Just 3 fights. Because like I don't see. I at first I saw kind of hate, but I think that's because of his stupid haircut. But then like the gain of respect we got from him because of going short notice versus Movsar Evlev, which is one of the toughest fights you could have in the featherweight division, who's undefeated. And not only that, you tried to finish him. He tried to finish Evlev a few times. He did beautiful arm bars and tried to do triangles and gain a lot of respect. He's like, fair enough, he lost. He bounced back and got 2 first-round finishes. So I'm excited for this fight. I had a crazy prediction. I think Lopez was going to fight for the belt. We'll see. We'll see. Now it's a bit. I don't know. Who knows? Might get that rematch with Evlev. If Evlev is fighting somebody else, he could just jump over him and get the belt. Get to fight for the championship. But I'm a big fan of Lopez. He's amazing, slick jiu-jitsu. And I think you as a jiu-jitsu guy appreciate it as well.
Yeah.
And he showed he could stop guys too. Like he passed Sabatini, he knocked him down. I'm pretty sure, and then kept going on with the punches on TK. Got the TKO at the end. And there's Sadiq Yusuf. He's kind of like up and down for me, right? He had an amazing fight with Barboza, but then he brought out classic Barboza out, and Yusuf is just like he's a good featherweight fighter. However, I don't see him going past the top 10. He's definitely the 10 to 15 range. Every time they throw in with somebody good like Allen and Barboza, he maybe cracks down to the pressure, but he's not top 5 caliber featherweight fighter for me. And I see Lopez as way more potential than Yusuf has. Especially Yusuf now is going into his 30s. He's been in UFC for a minute. Lopez is fresh. He's hungry. He wants to probably get that Evlev fight back in. Just climb up the rankings really quickly. I mean, 3 fights, he's ready. In his first fight, he could have been ranked. 2 fights later, he has a chance to be in rankings again.
Yeah, he's one of those who's going to be constantly looking up, right? There is starting to be a little bit of a logjam, you know, when you look into the rankings of the division, especially with Taporia talking all kinds of rubbish about fighting up, down, left, right, here, there, and everywhere apart from his own division. You obviously got, is the Volk rematch to come? Is that 2 fights from now? Max is obviously up, you know, in a car crash, as we talked about earlier. You got Ortega, who's probably the next best contender, but even still, that's questionable. Yair, I feel like with the rivalry him and Taporia have got, he's always a win away from picking up a title shot. So you could almost plan this division out for the next 2 years, really, I think, considering the amount that titles are defended nowadays, and especially with what Ilya Taporia is talking about trying to do, and the UFC's propensity, whatever that word is, to do stuff like that. So it could be perfect for somebody like a Diego Lopez to come in 2 or 3 fights. You pick up this Sadiq Yusuf win, then you look towards somebody up to that 10 mark, you know, Bryce Mitchell, Dan Ige. You got Lerone Murphy and Edson Barboza to throw in that mix as well. I mean, that's a horrendous, that's a brilliant fight. Calvin Kattar, depending on how he gets on.
If he loses, I'll definitely throw him. If Lopez wins, Kattar loses, I'll definitely throw him. The featherweight division is fun. It's just people have to have a win streak or like something to entice them to become something. The next contender. The only guy who's in a win streak I could know is Ivlev and Holloway. Holloway has 2-fight win streak, right? Allen and a Korean Zombie. mean, Ortega's 1 win. Rodriguez coming off a loss. Evlev, we know he is undefeated. Allen came off a loss. Cater's fighting this weekend, coming off a loss. Bryce Mitchell coming off a loss knockout. Essen Barboza has a 1 fight win streak. Who we just talked about beat Youssef.
Yeah.
Dan Ige. Did he win his last fight? I feel like he did, but he's always one win, one loss, 1 win. So somebody has to get a win streak, and you can propel yourself into the top 5 and can fight for the belt soon.
Yeah. And these two guys, Lerone Murphy and Diego Lopez, they're two guys that could do it, right? You look at these guys on a very similar path. Lerone Murphy is ranked 14, but Lopez beat Youssef. He comes in at 13. So I'm going to push you for a prediction on this one. I think it's either really close or it's not close at all. What do you think?
No, I think third finish in a row for Diego Lopez.
Ooh.
I think he's going to get Youssef down. I think Youssef's going to start strong in the first round, but I think Lopez will get it done. Submission, round 2 or 3. I might be too generous with all these finishes. I only have one decision so far.
You think he's going to just be an absolute banger of a card. I'm going to go Diego Lopez first round finish. I think he's just going to blitzkrieg Sadiq Youssef. And Youssef starts a bit slow sometimes, or I think Lopez by first round knockout. I'm going to go knockout.
Oh, okay.
I like steamroll knockout. Steamroll knockout. Next up is Money Renato Money Moicano against Jalen Turner, lightweight division. You know, Moicano's coming off good performances, a ton of hype, most of it made by himself, and he really seems to have turned what's the word? Turned a new page, turned a new leaf. In picking up a couple of tough losses a few years ago, most notably, I think. The Fazeev one, the Chanson Jonah, Korean Zombie, Jose Aldo, RDA. And he's really turned it around in his last few fights. Brad Riddell, Drew Dober. He's coming up against Jalen the Tarantula Turner. He's a guy I like a lot, but only really got the win recently over Bobby Green around round 1 finish, and then losing previously to Hooker and Gamrot, which there's no shame in losing to either of those guys. So. Nope. I mean, this is kind of what Money would have wanted. I would assume he'll want to be further up the card, but he's no bigger than, I guess maybe Youssef and Lopez, but he's no bigger than too many people ahead of him. I mean, what do you think of this tilt at lightweight?
Fun fight, right? Fun fight. Lightweight can't go wrong, as I always say. It's a fun fight. Moicano recently knows how to talk on the mic since he stepped in short notice versus RDA, and then who was it? He's like, Moicano wants money. So
it was a Riddell one, right?
Riddell probably. Yeah, because it was MSG versus Pereira. Yeah, he knows how to talk now. He's like, Moicano wants money. I was eating steak in Brazil. And then his last fight, he came out as well. He called out his dad. He's like, my dad became a father at 7 years old. No,
yeah.
And Connor's telling me on Twitter, so Moicano money might get the money. Obviously, 300 is a big spot. I don't know. This probably will be one of the first cards where people will be packed at the beginning of the ND arena, and people will be watching it from the very first fight. I would argue compared to the other fights, this might be should be lower in the card. Like I would personally, the first fight, Figueiredo versus Garbrandt, higher than this, but still fun fight. Jalen Turner is like a freak. How tall is he? 6'3" to fight at 155. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's fun. Let's see how they're both good at grappling. Turner has underrated grappling. He likes to strike though. So we'll see who gets it done in the grappling department because they're both good at it. I think it's a fun fight. Like UFC 300, it's a fun fight for the fans.
Yeah, so that should be the tagline for this card. Fun fights for the fans. This marks the start of the end of the early prelims. So these are your Fight Pass prelims, which it just sounds ridiculous when you've got the fights we're gonna discuss. But that's the monster is UFC 300. Yeah, similar to you, I think this will go into a fun stand-up battle. Honestly, I can see it going 3 rounds, but I think it's going to be an absolute war. I think this will be the one that, no offense to the ladies before this fight, this will be the one where people are coming back from their bathroom break, their coffee break, whatever it is people do at whatever time of day they're watching the card. So for me, it'll probably be when I'm doing my 30 minutes of zone 2 cardio in the gym the next day, because I do not stay up to watch cards. Sleep is golden. So I'll probably be watching this one at the end of my workout. I'm enjoying the shit out of it. I think it'll be a really, really good fight. Like I said, stand-up battle. Who's going to get the better of it, though, do you think?
I think Turner, just because his height, every fight he goes into, his height's like big advantage, right? You're fighting 155, you're rehydrated, you got the weight back. You're 6'3", and I believe Marcano is 5'10". He's 5'11", so you still have a 4-inch reach height advantage. There's a reason to call him Tarantula, right? He looks like he has long legs, long arms. You could get you on the ground, get you on the feet. I would give him the edge here to Turner. However, it makes me a bit nervous how we saw Moicano fought Drew Dober versus an actual striker and just laid and prayed on top of him. And when Dober was throwing his hands, that's when he had the advantage. So it has to be Turner utilize his height literally and strike with him and not get taken down by Moicano.
Turner, 11 first round finishes out of 14 wins. That is ridiculous. Right? That is, and you're not talking about like bums, right? You talk about Brad Riddell, Bobby Green, are two that he's done in the first round finish in under half the round, pretty much. Bobby Green just over that. And then, the outliers were Jamie Malarkey, who he did in the second round, and Brooke Weaver, who I'm not familiar with, who he did in the second round, right? So those are kind of the most recent ones. So
and
me saying it's a 3-round war is a bit of a poor prediction, but hey ho.
Yeah. An interesting stat you just mentioned, how he'll turn us 10 first round finishes.
11, if my math is correct.
11. Moicano has 0 finishes by KO or TKO. 10 wins by submissions and 8 by decision. And he hit in 3 losses by KO. So statistically wise, you think Turner gets it done first round, but Moicano with his mouth now, he'd probably want to get that win, get on the mic and call somebody out.
Yeah. My prediction, 3-round war, super fun fight. Moicano to come out the victor with a unanimous decision. It'll go 2-1. Jalen Turner will win the first round. Moicano will look like he's just about out of there. He'll just hold on to it, and then he'll come on strong in the last 2, but Jalen Turner will have his moments. That's how I see this fight going, to be honest. So a Moicano decision.
I was leaning towards that, and then he told me Turner has 11 first round finishes. Turner wants to be back in that ranking, top 10 rankings, top 5 rankings, get a run for the belt. And I think he loses just to like heavy grapplers or like Dan Hooker, people who are tougher than him.
Yeah.
So you said 11 first round finishes. Let's make it 12 first round finishes for Jalen Turner. I'm very generous to my finishes here. So first round finish, KO for Jalen Turner.
Very generous indeed. For the next fight down, I believe this is women's strawweight. Obviously, we've got the title on the line on the main card. Number 4 ranked Jessica Andrade against number 6, Marina Rodriguez. Gotta say, I don't remember too much of Marina Rodriguez. She does not stand out in my mind. Obviously, Jessica Andrade is Jessica Andrade. You know her absolutely, because just how game she is, how often she gets in there, and she's got a fun, exciting style. She is she coming off a win or a loss? Let's have a look. She's coming off
a
win
versus
Mackenzie
Mackenzie
Dern. Yeah, of course. Yeah. MSG, which was a pretty impressive win. And then Marina Rodriguez is coming off the Michelle Waterson win. So both ladies coming off a win, both ladies coming off finishes. I think with any Jessica Andrade fight, right, it points towards chaos and probably a finish for one or the other, right?
I believe it's going to be a finish. Surprise, surprise. John thinks a finish, but Andrade hasn't looked really good for me lately. She lost 3 times in a row to Blanchfield, Shaxian Yan, who is fighting for the belt now, and Tatiana Suarez, who we all know her pedigree as well with the wrestling. But the thing is, sorry, the thing is, three finishes on those losses, and then she finished Mackenzie Dern, who kind of silly wanted to strike with Andrade. Excuse me, we all know Andrade is a much better striker than Mackenzie Dern.
Mhm.
Also, I think Marina Rodriguez is a better striker than Jessica Andrade. Andrade for me was going to be, I think she was going to go for the belt when she beat Shaxian Yan
Yeah.
in 2022. And then just there's some, it bounced down. I thought it was her and Amanda Lemos was the title eliminator, and then that's how Lemos got the title shot, and Lemos got the finish. And then she lost again to Vima. What's her name?
Jandiroba.
Jandiroba, yeah. So it's tough to tell, but she got back versus the Karate Hottie where she got a second round finish. So hopefully we see that kind of Rodriguez back. She was in a good winning streak, 4-5 win streak. And I'm a bigger fan of Rodriguez than Andrade, especially with Andrade moving up and down weight classes just to get fights. I think Rodriguez should get a solid win streak going and get that title shot eventually, just to fight. Because in the women's division, you get 3-fight win streak, 2-fight win streak. You absolutely just go back for a title shot, especially with her belt being on the line in the co-main event.
Yeah, especially. And you would think that if the seemingly impossible were to happen and that Yan Xiaonan picks up the win over Zhang Weili and Zhang Weili can't compete, that Marina Rodriguez would be well within her right to call for that rematch, right? With a win here over Andrade. So it looks positive. I don't know why it doesn't stick in my mind, to be honest. She really doesn't. It's not a lot I remember about her.
You remember her versus Hebas, Amanda Hebas, where she punched her, and Hebas kind of Herb Dean tried to step in or not step in, and Hebas kind of just stood there, and Rodriguez continued on the shots, and then that's when they stepped in. So, I just think like she's ranked 6, Rodriguez. Andrade's ranked 4 technically in the division. Lemos is there. Suarez is there, and she fought Suarez to a draw, I believe. Oh, that was Cynthia Calvillo. Never mind. She fought Cynthia Calvillo to a draw. So it's definitely 1 or 2 fights away, right? She beats Jessica Andrade. She jumps in top 5, beats a top 5 rank. If Jan loses the co-main, she could definitely have a rematch against her, and they'll propel her to the title shot. So I think Rodriguez is the next title contender in the division. So she just needs a win. It's low key. You're in the prelims of UFC 300. You got onto UFC 300 as a woman fighter. It means you have high praises from Dana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it means Dana likes you. Well, I'm gonna follow you on this one. I'm gonna say I think Marina Rodriguez is gonna pick up a win. Yeah, you've turned me around on it. I've got to say, you made a very passionate plea there. Yeah, I think she probably finishes Jessica as well. Jessica does seem to, in the bigger fights, sometimes she gets into these silly firefights that she shouldn't get into. So yeah, maybe a second round TKO from Marina Rodriguez.
I'm gonna go with a decision, Rodriguez.
Okay.
I think Andrade is still tough. It's gonna be a nice little stand-up battle. I don't see any grappling other than like the pushes towards the wall and trying to get position and then break off and continue striking. I think it's gonna be a fun fight, but I think it's our first decision of the night.
First decision of the night. not of many. Mr. UFC 300. It feels like we've been praying that he did not get injured or get too badly beat up so that he could be on this card. And not only have the UFC rewarded him by being on the card, they've given him a ranked opponent. Number 14 ranked Bobby Green. Bobby very much in and out. I mean, he's just coming out of a loss to Jalen Turner, who we just spoke about. It seems like we kind of know where his ceiling is. Jim Miller, I mean, he's been around and around. You scroll down that topology. Jim effing Miller.
I hope Bruce introduces him like that.
He's got to do it, right? It's not going to be on mainstream TV. It's going to be on Fight Pass, so
Right.
he
Oh,
should be
is
able to
Fight
get away
Pass
with
not
it.
on like? I think at least in Canada, the prelims, the early prelims. Oh no, only the prelims are on the channel, but early prelims are on Fight Pass. Yes, yes. So he could definitely do
Yeah.
it for the real UFC fans that are paying for UFC Fight Pass every month. Just give us a treat,
Exactly. Or poor mugs like me who pay it yearly. Like, give me that. Although to be fair, in Europe you get the whole card. These fight night cards, you get the whole card, which is really cool. So I can't complain about that. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day. Man, I can see Jim Miller picking up the win here. Can you?
I'm absolutely seeing Jim Miller win. I see Jim Miller getting a finish. I'm seeing Jim Miller climbing up, getting a ranking spot after this. But pretty impressive. Like what he has, 50 fights in he has 54 fights.
Yeah.
In under his belt, he has 40 fights in the UFC. That's effing crazy.
Yeah.
Like, is it
42 fights in the UFC?
42 fights in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. He's
Who
26 and 16.
I mean, that's still fine. Like, because you get win streaks, you forget about it. You get a win, people
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
you for your last fight, right? People remember for your last fight. I think it's a really fun fight. I think Bobby Green will try to do his bob and weave, keep his hands low, but I think Miller will get a submission finish here. I think
Yeah.
Miller, he has to. I think he's gonna be like, look, and then he's gonna call out Dana to put him on UFC 400.
With Bo Nickel as the
Bo
headline,
Nickel
right?
headlining. Exactly. Yes.
Can you imagine, mate? Bo Nickel versus
Mhm.
Joe Pyfer or whoever. Is it Joe Pyfer in middleweight? Yeah,
Hamza,
it is, right?
Hamza.
Yeah, Hamza. Yeah, Hamza. That's the way to do it in what, 8 years time. That would be fun, man. That would be fun. Yeah, I agree with you. I think a submission. I think maybe second round submission, Bobby. Miller will get after it, and he'll really, really want to put a stamp and make himself the talking point of UFC 300. Make everybody come out of it saying, "Wow, 40-year-old Jim Miller getting ranked 100, 200, 300, bang."
You think our preview is this long? Our review is gonna be twice as long. There's so many storylines to talk, especially how there's like a few lightweights, like, and after Bobby Green Jim Miller fights, there's Jessica Andrade Rodriguez, then there's Marcano and Turner, who's also a lightweight ranked. Like we could definitely see like a setup for Jim Miller's next fight. He could main event a fight, fight night. He's ranked. You have another guy ranked. Him versus Marcano will be kind of fun. They both grappling heavy type fighters. They kind of fan favorites, right? Everybody was petitioning for Miller Beyond, or Marcano recently, like I just mentioned, knows how to talk. So why not?
Has he done Dan Hooker? Jim Miller? No, right?
I mean, I think Dan Hooker is going to destroy Miller. I think he's going to give favorable matchups for Miller.
Still, that would be incredible, right? That's a fight. That's a fight you want to make. That's a fight you want to make.
So I'm going with a first round submission for Jim Miller.
I'm going to go second. I'm going to go second round. I'm going to give Bobby Green that round, and then Jim effing Miller to come out there, get the double announcement from Bruce Buffer.
Hell yeah. Yep.
And let it ride off into the sunset. As we speak of riding off into the sunset, one more fight, my friend. One more fight. It feels like all I've seen is your face this week, which I can't complain about. It's been
You're welcome.
a lot of fun
You're welcome.
to talk the fight. Davidson Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt in the first fight of the evening. Davidson Figueiredo ranked in at number 8 after making his bantamweight debut. Was that earlier this year? I mean, has it gone this year already? Was it this year? Feels like forever against Rob Font. December against Rob Font.
December. So close enough. Oh yeah, that Edwards and Covington card. Yeah.
Unanimous decision. Rob Font coming up against Cody Garbrandt, who seems to be effervescent in this division, the kind of like the Cody of 9 lives. It feels like an absolute lifetime ago that he beat Dominic Cruz to become champ, and has kind of flattered to deceive ever since. He had the double fight back to back against TJ, picked up nasty losses after that, trying to go down a weight class. Got himself together with 2 back-to-back wins over Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher. I mean, I personally really like Brian Kelleher. I think that's a great win. And he did also have that Rafael Assunção knockout. Was it Assunção knockout where he was against the fence, came from nowhere, bah,
From the
Um,
cage. He
yeah,
loaded
so,
up from hell. He loaded up that
yeah.
punch from hell and just ripped Assunção out. But
So
Assunção's a bit older and been through the
he
yardage.
is, and he has. So we're all very aware of what Cody can do. Um, can he do it against Davidson Figueiredo? That's a massive question. This is a hell of a fight, man. This is the one where you are definitely saying, I can't believe that's the opener for UFC 300.
Yeah.
Dana's played with it a little bit because you could, he's put that there so that statement rings true, right? You could put Bobby and Jim there. You could put Jessica and Marina there, and you would say, oh, yeah, that's a great fight as an opener. But he's put this there to make that statement hold true, right?
He put that fight so people tune in for the first fight.
Yeah.
I can't imagine people the day after UFC 300 and miss the morning of and be like, oh, I haven't watched Garbrandt versus Figueiredo. Like, are you crazy?
Yep.
This fight was supposed to be the championship fight at flyweight in 2020 or 2021. It's happening now
wrong.
as the first fight of the night. We see 300. Both guys crack, like to bang. I do not see how this is a boring fight. I cannot see how it's somebody's going to sleep in this fight. Somebody's going to sleep. Hopefully Garbrandt grew his beard out to get more protection for his chin. But I think Figueiredo, made a statement. He's like, yeah, I can fight it. I can fight at bantamweight. Outstruck Rob Font, who we know he's a good boxer. People called him one of the better boxers in the division.
Mm-hmm.
Figueiredo wants to make a run in division, become a two weight division champion. Garbrandt wants to come back in the rankings and fight for the belt eventually again. Prove that his losses were these purposes or something like that. So this, although it's a fun fight, a lot of stakes on the line for both men.
Yeah, this is a massive fight. It feels bigger for Cody from my perspective than it does for Davison. Because Davison is holding that ranking. So he probably, if he lost, would only drop a couple. Mm-hmm. However, I think when you look at that top four, I don't see either of these guys. I see probably more Davison being able to beat some of those guys. I guess you take Aljo out of the equation. So it's more like a top three of Merab, Corey, and Petr. Merab and obviously Sean haven't been matched up yet, but that's the fight that's probably going to be made, especially with all the social media back and forth. I would love to see the Cody Garbrandt of Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt against Sean O'Malley. That would be incredible fight. Yeah, that would be an incredible fight because Cody was incredible, but I don't think we get that Cody back consistently, to be honest. I think there's something going on between the ears. His mental's not quite right. And
well, you did mention you see 217 at the top of the show, and Garbrandt was on there versus Dillashaw, so we might maybe big fights could entice him. He was he's tired of being prelims. He's like, hey Dana, let me show you what I can do.
Yeah.
And get the ranking back and try to be in the rankings. But I agree with you. I can't see any of these guys beating the top three: Merab, Sanhagen, Jan, even Vera now. Even might be Vera. Sung Yadong would be a fun fight.
Yeah.
With any of these two, but yeah, I don't think them cracking in top five, but it just stakes. There's a lot of stakes still. If you believe in yourself, as I believe these guys believe in themselves, they'd be like, I could beat this guy and climb up the rankings from there. Yeah,
I think Davison's got the better chance, honestly, if you ask me, to climb the rankings. But Cody's got the experience, so you never know. Right. Final predictions. Are you going to go for another finish?
Yeah. Waiting for another finish. I think my night's going to start off well for UFC 300. I'm going for a second round knockout for Cody Garbrandt.
Ooh, you're going to have to roll back the clock.
Roll back the clock. I think Brian Kelleher, not the 2 wins in a row now, makes some confidence back. He knocked out Brian Kelleher. He's like, I was supposed to fight this guy. I was supposed to move down. Let me prove you. Let me guys prove you wrong. I think the UFC fans, not the non-casuals, the one who's been there for a while, will be very happy to see Cody win in the first fight at UFC 300.
I would. Yeah, I would. I would be happy to see Cody win. However, on this occasion, I don't think he does. I think Davison's gonna get it done. I think he's just gonna be too aggressive, and Cody can't hold a punch the way. Well, I don't know if he's ever really been able to hold a punch. We haven't really seen it so much, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think he can hold it. And I think once Davison gets a hold of him, he's got more ways to finish the fight, whether he takes him down, whether he goes for a knockout. Davison Figueiredo, I think it's going to go early round one. That's going to be my final prediction. So a lot of
Knockout,
finishes.
submission.
Knockout, sorry, knockout. Yeah, I think he catches him. I think he catches him, and maybe it leads to a ground and pound, one of those. Not a clean knockout, but probably ground and pound with Paul Cody against the fence. I mean, just to wrap up our conversation, if anyone's still around, what do you think will be the biggest talking point coming out of UFC 300? The biggest talking point.
I think just because people are most excited for this fight, it has to be Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje, especially if Max Holloway gets it done. Like, it'll be a crazy turnaround, because if you beat Gaethje, who's ranked 2 a lightweight, you're right there for title contention at lightweight. But there's Taylor. There's too many storylines. There's too many talking points that's gonna happen after. Because everybody, it seems like you could have everybody who could win could be next for a title almost, like Yuri, Sterling. I mean, Lopez, the fan favorite, he gets it done in first round. Something like it's gonna be. I think like we're gonna be filming the review for a week. It's going to be part 1, part 2. We're going to have a breakdown for every fight, because I think there's a storyline for everything. Especially, there's 2 championships on the line, and it feels like it doesn't feel like as big as it should be, if you know what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. What do you think? I feel like it's going to be a lot of storylines. I can't even pick one.
I think we're going to be talking about the greatness of Alex Pereira. That's going to be what I think the storyline's going to be. I think we're going to be talking about what's next for him. I hope we're talking about Max Holloway as a Max Holloway fan. I think everything's got like you said, everything's got a storyline, but it's nothing that's really groundbreaking in terms of storylines, really, right? It's not like a Conor or a Diaz or something like that. You know, maybe I don't know, maybe something super wild happens, like a Showtime kick or something like that early in the card. You know, maybe Kayla Harrison steamrolling Holly Holm, but everyone almost kind of expects it, right?
As long as she makes weight.
As long as she makes weight, you know, that could be the story that she doesn't make weight, right?
If she doesn't make weight, that's a big story. Yeah, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. But I think it's going to be the greatness of Alex Pereira, and where does he rank in terms of all-time greats? Honestly, I think that's the conversation people will be having, especially in the space. People will be talking about that, and you know, if he says on the mic, "I'm coming for you at heavyweight," that's what we're going to be talking about, right? That's what we're going to be talking about, because that's what the guy's in the game for. Calls out Aspinall, calls out JBJ. You never know, right? You never know. So I think that'll be the storyline. Well, listen, my man, it's been a pleasure. I don't know how long this is going to end up being, but it's a long one. As will the review will probably be even longer. Like you said, we're going to have to have books created from our notes. But thank you, my man. Thanks for being here. However you enjoy. What are your plans for the fights? Have you got plans for it yet, or?
Waking up at 7 a.m., drinking a 12-pack of Modelo's or Bud Lights, and then we're gonna go to Austin now, who's on Combat Sports UK. So we're gonna go to his house. We're gonna have a few buddies that we always watch UFC with, and just be giddy for the whole time. I think it's gonna be an unbelievable night. I think this night cannot disappoint. Not that I put a bar any higher.
Hey, it can't. With the people, the fights, they always turn up. I'm probably going to switch off every single piece of technology I have to wake up Sunday morning, go to the gym, sit on my sofa from midday all the way until 8 p.m. whenever it finishes, and watch it back in all its glory.
I was going to mention we need some PFL kind of pacing here, just so we have time to go to the washroom and stuff. But yeah, I think if we're gonna have a few finishes, we might have time to go for a beer run or go take a leak.
You guys can draw short straws, or just put bets on the fights, right? You have to make the beer runs. Whoever's winning after the first 5 fights, whoever's losing has to go get the beers. Whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a
All
good
right,
idea.
my man.
I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up.
Well, listen, my man, thank you as always. It's been a pleasure. We will be back to review it at some point. I can't guarantee it's going to be the Monday or Tuesday after. It'll be some point that week. Thank you for sticking along with us. If you have been here the full 3 hours that we've been talking about these fights, thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next one.